All right, so this question says, which graph has the greater decay factor? Graph A or graph B? And we want to start by just looking at the basic characteristics of the exponential graph or function. So one, identifying the initial value, which is 100 here. So that's where it's crossing the y-axis, so initial value. And if we're looking at graph B, we're also seeing that it has the same initial value. So both graphs actually start at the same place. Now, we've got to calculate the decay factor for graph A. And in order to do that, what we do is we take the output value and divide it by the one before or previous. That is how I say it. So for example, to calculate the decay factor, we would take 85 and we would divide that by 100, which is the output value that was before or the previous output value. That would give us 0.85. We would take 61.413 and we would divide that by the one that came before, which is 85. That would also produce 0.85. We could do the same thing. That's how we would use it. We'd use the same strategy in order to find the decay factor on table B. So we would take 70 and we would divide that by 100. And that would give us 0.70. So you're going to use your calculators for this. Then you would take your 49 and you would divide that by 70. And that would give you 0.70 and so on. All right. So in order to figure out like the decay factor, the equation, we need two important values, which has to be the initial value and the growth factor. So let's continue answering this question. So when we look at graph A, we can clearly see that its initial value is 100, the decay factor is 0.85 based on what we were asking previously. So the equation would be y is equal to 100 times 0.85 raised to the x. And then for graph B, the initial value is the same, the decay factor is 0.7. And the equation would be y is equal to 100 times 0.70 raised to the x. The question we're asking is which graph has the greater decay factor, which means which one is decaying faster. So the graph that is decaying more quickly has to be graph B. And the reason we would say that is if you check out each of the output values for each input, starting from, it went from 100 to 70, whereas A went from 100 to 85. And so we can see that graph B is decaying more quickly. On the second output value for B, that's 49, while the second output value after 85 is 61. So we can see that graph B has the smaller remaining value, which means that it is the graph that is decaying more quickly.